Picture this scenario for a second. You're standing in your kitchen, or maybe you're sitting in the passenger seat of a car.
Oh, the classic trapped in a car argument.
Exactly. You're having a disagreement with someone you love. It could be your partner, a parent, maybe your sibling. And tensions are rising.
Right.
The volume is creeping up. And you can feel that physical shift, right? Like your heart starts beating a little faster.
Your jaw tightens up.
Yeah, your jaw tightens. So how do you usually handle that exact moment?
That is the million-dollar question.
Do you take a deep breath and, actively try to de-escalate? Or do you, like so many of us, reach for whatever emotional weapon is closest at hand?
Just to make sure they know exactly how hurt you are.
Exactly. And it's a profoundly uncomfortable question.
It really is. I mean, it goes right to the core of how human beings interact when the stakes feel incredibly high,
Right.
when the vulnerabilities are fully exposed. We routinely save our most destructive communication tactics for the exact people we claim to care about the most.
Which is just such a wild paradox.
Yeah.
And, well, that very tension is the focus of our deep dive today. We are looking at a really fascinating essay. It's titled, "Do Not Punish Loved Ones with Negativity and Tragedy."
It's a heavy title.
It is. It was written December of 2010 by an author named Shufeng. And our mission today is to explore this author's framework on why we weaponize our emotions.
A psychology behind it.
Right. We'll look at the philosophical laws that supposedly govern our family dynamics, and ultimately a genuinely radical approach to conflict resolution.
I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because what strikes me right away is that this philosophy, it doesn't start in the clouds.
No, not at all.
It starts right in the messy, everyday reality of relationships. It looks at this whole spectrum of coercion.
Yeah, coercion is the perfect word for it.
Like, think about a toddler throwing a massive tantrum in the middle of a grocery store. We usually dismiss that as just a simple loss of emotional control.
Right, just a kid being a kid.
But this framework frames that tantrum as an active, calculated negotiation tactic.
Yes. The concept of coercion is so central here. If we look at a child crying or screaming to get a toy, the underlying psychological mechanism is, well, it's an attempt to force a specific outcome.
For negative pressure.
Exactly, through negative pressure. And the author suggests that if parents don't gently but firmly correct this, if they just give in to stop the noise...
Which, let's be honest, we all do sometimes just to survive the grocery trip.
Oh, absolutely. But if that's the pattern, the child internalizes a very dangerous lesson. They learn that negativity is a highly effective tool for getting what they want.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that.
And the danger is they grow into adults who experience constant, chronic dissatisfaction, simply because the real world, unlike an exhausted parent, is not always going to yield to a tantrum.
Oh, man. But, the adults aren't off the hook here either. It's not just about kids.
Definitely not.
If you look at how adults behave, that exact same mechanism of coercion just evolves. It scales up.
It gets more sophisticated.
Right. Instead of throwing a toy, a spouse might throw a plate. Or they use these highly dramatic acts like yelling, crying, hurling insults.
Yeah.
Or think about the extended family dynamic, which can honestly be even more insidious.
Oh, the extended family stuff is incredibly complex.
Siblings or in-laws dealing with disharmony, not through direct open communication, but through cold indifference.
Right. The silent treatment.
Giving the silent treatment, avoiding each other at holidays, gossiping behind closed doors.
Which are all variations of the exact same behavioral mechanism. Whether it's the toddler's tantrum, the spouse's insult, or the sibling's cold shoulder, these are fundamentally acts of retaliation.
Retaliation, right.
In the heat of the moment, the objective entirely shifts. You are no longer trying to resolve the actual issue at hand.
The issue goes out the window.
Completely. The primary goal just becomes punishing the other party. The internal logic is basically, you hurt me, so my new objective is to make you feel my pain.
I was thinking about this, and it made me realize how we approach problem solving in literally any other area of life. Like, if you have a leaky faucet in your house, you get a wrench. You carefully tighten the pipe. You don't grab a 10-pound sledgehammer and start smashing the porcelain sink to pieces.
I mean, I hope not.
Right. Because, sure, the sledgehammer might technically stop the leak because the sink is entirely gone, but you've destroyed the house in the process.
That's a great analogy.
And yet, when our emotional needs aren't being met by our loved ones, we immediately grab the emotional sledgehammer. Why? Like, why do we default to blowing up the room with the people we supposedly love?
Well, because retaliation feels productive to the nervous system in the short term.
Really? It
Well,
feels productive.
yeah, even when it's entirely destructive in the long term, it's a release. But as this framework points out, this retaliatory mindset is a massive miscalculation.
It doesn't actually fix the leak.
Exactly. It never actually alleviates your inner frustration. It just deepens the misfortune, it breeds more resentment, and it makes any real reconciliation exponentially harder.
Wow.
You are just introducing more damage into a system that is already failing.
You're just swinging the sledgehammer over and over, hoping the house suddenly fixes itself.
Which it won't.
But here is where the philosophy takes a very sharp, very intense turn. We've been talking about the everyday sledgehammers, right?
The gossip, the yelling.
Yeah, the silent treatment.
Yeah.
But if retaliation is a spectrum, where does it end? What happens when someone decides to bring down the entire building?
Yeah.
The essay actually examines the absolute most terrifying extreme of this punitive mindset.
It does. And it requires us to look objectively at a very heavy claim regarding global suicide rates.
Right.
The author notes that hundreds of thousands of people commit suicide worldwide every year and identifies strained family relationships as a critical driving factor.
And the specific assertion here goes way beyond establishing a simple correlation.
Yes.
The framework proposes that often self-harm is not solely born out of internal isolated despair.
Which is what we usually assume.
Exactly. Instead, it frames it as an extreme, calculated attempt to punish loved ones.
What's fascinating here is how this entirely shifts the lens on such a devastating act.
It really does.
This philosophy views self-harm through the mechanics of relationship dynamics. It's framing it as the ultimate weaponization of guilt within a family system.
Wow. The ultimate weaponization of guilt.
Right. When the goal of a conflict becomes, I want you to hurt as much as I hurt, and I want you to remember it forever, the logical, terrifying endpoint of that mindset is absolute devastation.
It is an incredibly heavy concept to process.
Mm.
And if you're listening right now, we are looking objectively at how this specific author maps out this emotional dynamic.
Right, we're not making blanket medical statements.
Exactly. We're just exploring the text. But engaging with this idea really highlights the sheer, terrifying power of unchecked negative emotions when we treat our relationships as battlegrounds.
It's sobering.
The author talks about the collateral damage of this extreme retaliation, how it leaves the survivors completely devastated, racked with an unspeakable lifelong guilt.
Which is the ultimate proof of the author's underlying premise, really.
How so?
Well, attempting to solve a relationship problem by inflicting pain is a fundamentally flawed strategy. It doesn't solve the initial disagreement.
It just ensures that everyone loses catastrophic.
Exactly. The pain isn't transferred and resolved. It's multiplied and made permanent.
Okay, so we've established the catastrophic failure of negative punishment, from the everyday tantrum to the absolute extreme edges of human behavior.
A whole spectrum.
Right. But a good deep dive doesn't just admire the problem. The really compelling part of this essay is when it shifts to the actual mechanics of why these tactics fail. The author introduces what feel almost like universal laws of physics governing our emotional interactions.
Yeah, the foundational rule in this framework is that, breeds like.
Like breeds like.
Exactly. And it's presented not just as a nice idea, but as an immutable law of nature.
Okay.
The analogies used are very grounded, like an apple tree only bears apples. A thorny bush only produces thorns, making a path impassable. You simply cannot plant a thorn and expect an apple to grow.
Which makes intuitive sense. I mean, nobody expects an apple from a thorn bush.
Right.
But the author goes deeper, introducing the laws of attraction and visualized thinking. The idea is that things of the same frequency resonate, and similar natures attract one another.
Yes.
Beauty attracts beauty. Ugliness attracts ugliness. Therefore, bringing negative, pessimistic emotions into a conflict will only invite more destruction.
It's a compounding effect.
Right. I love the way the author phrases this.
Yeah.
A tragedy cannot create a comedy.
And if we look at the psychology behind that, it's actually incredibly accurate.
Really?
Yeah, it's a deterministic view of emotional energy, but it mirrors how our human nervous systems actually operate. Think about emotional contagion and mirror neurons.
Oh, like when someone yawns and you yawn.
Exactly. But with emotions, when someone approaches you with intense anger, when they are being a thorny bush, your amygdala immediately registers a threat. You are biologically primed to mirror that aggression, to enter a fight or flight state. So when the author says ugliness attracts ugliness, It's not just a philosophical concept, it's a physiological reality.
Wow.
If you introduce destruction into a closed relationship system, the system fundamentally becomes destructive.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, though.
Okay.
Because I'm struggling with this, like, breeds-like idea as an absolute law.
In what way?
Well, if my partner yells at me, my immediate biological instinct, like you just said, is to yell back. My amygdala fires up.
Yep, completely natural.
So if that's an absolute law, aren't two arguing spouses just helplessly trapped in a feedback loop?
Yeah.
Like, if they throw a thorn and I naturally resonate with that frequency and throw a thorn back, how does anyone ever stop being a thorny bush in the heat of the moment?
That's a great question.
If the law of attraction is always running, are we just doomed to escalate?
That is the exact friction point of this entire philosophy. If the system is closed and reactionary, yes, it's a doom loop.
Just back and forth forever.
Right. But the author doesn't leave us stranded there. The framework provides a very specific, actionable solution for breaking that negative feedback loop.
Okay.
It requires an active, highly conscious interruption of those emotional physics.
Right. The antidote. The text introduces what we might call the crucial pause.
The crucial pause.
It's a literal internal monologue you are supposed to force upon yourself the exact second you feel tempted to reach for that sledgehammer. You're supposed to stop and tell yourself, these are my loved ones. How can I approach my loved ones with ugliness in my heart and on my face? No, absolutely not.
It's powerful.
Yeah, it goes on. I must handle and resolve our relationships with peace, tolerance, understanding, and love.
It's a cognitive override.
Right.
You are forcing your higher brain to step in and shut down the amygdala's response.
So you're literally talking yourself down.
Exactly. By explicitly, consciously labeling the person in front of you as a loved one, you trigger a completely different set of behavioral rules. You are categorizing them as someone who is off limits for retaliation.
Okay, I see.
But to make this truly work, the philosophy expands on what a loved one actually is, moving far beyond just biological ties.
Yes, the definition of family gets a massive upgrade here. Family isn't just blood. It includes the people who raised us, the people who care for us.
Right.
And then the text brings in a broader community aspect. It mentions the teachings of a community called Lifechanyuan.
Which is important context.
Yeah, just for some context for you listening, this is a spiritual and philosophical movement the author draws from, which is inspired by the teachings of Jesus Christ and centers on following the path of the greatest creator. And within this framework, anyone walking that shared path of harmony is considered family.
And by expanding that definition, the author is essentially expanding the zone in which these rules of absolute non-retaliation apply.
Like a much wider safety net.
Exactly. It creates a massive safety net of mutual respect. And the rules themselves, the value system of this community, they are incredibly specific and heavily metaphorical.
Yeah, they really are.
For instance, the framework defines jealousy not just as a bad mood, but as a manifestation of a soul's ugliness. It defines the habit of comparing yourself to others as an act of malice.
And that actually brings us to my absolute favorite metaphor from this entire deep dive.
I think I know which one you mean.
Complaints are poisonous arrows.
Yes.
If you're listening, just think about the imagery there for a second. When you come home and start complaining about your day or your boss or the traffic, you aren't just innocently venting.
No.
According to this framework, you are drawing a bow and shooting a toxin directly into the person you are talking to.
It completely reframes it.
It does.
Yeah.
The explicit rule here is to praise more, avoid blaming, and this is the massive one, never use loved ones as a dumping ground for your negative emotions.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, viewing complaints as literal poisonous arrows completely disrupts how modern culture views casual venting.
Oh, entirely.
Because in a lot of pop psychology today, we hear about the importance of getting things off your chest.
Right. Verbal processing.
Yeah, verbally processing your stress with your partner. But this framework demands absolute personal accountability for the energy you bring into a room.
It's a total paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Because we're so conditioned to think, my partner is my rock, they are my safe space, so I can dump all my stress on them.
Right.
And this philosophy is putting up a giant stop sign saying, no, absolutely not. You are actively harming their nervous system by doing that.
Exactly. It suggests that venting isn't a harmless release valve. It is a direct transfer of poison from you to the person you love.
That is so intense.
It is. And the author points to a proof of concept for this entire value system. The text references the second home, which is a community model created by Lifechanyuan.
Right, the second home.
It claims that by rigorously practicing these principles, by absolutely refusing to shoot poisonous arrows and actively choosing not to act like thorny bushes, the members of this community live in profound warmth and harmony with virtually zero disputes.
It's presented as the empirical evidence for the philosophy. A whole community built entirely on the premise of positive emotional physics.
Yes.
And honestly, whether you agree with the foundational spiritual tenets of that specific community or not, the underlying social mechanism they are highlighting is undeniably compelling.
Absolutely.
When a group of people collectively agree to revoke the right to retaliate, to completely banish the sledgehammer from the toolbox, the environment has to fundamentally change.
It forces you to get incredibly creative with your problem solving. Because if crying, yelling, giving the cold shoulder, and shooting poisonous arrows of complaint are completely off the table, what is left?
Only reasoning, only tolerance, and empathy. You are essentially forced to actually get the wrench and tighten the leaky pipe, because smashing the sink is no longer an option.
Precisely. It demands a much higher level of emotional maturity. You have to learn to sit with your own discomfort.
To process your own negative frequency.
Exactly, rather than immediately trying to offload it onto someone else through an outburst or a venting session.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? When we distill the core takeaways from Xiufeng's essay, the message is actually quite simple, even if it is incredibly difficult to practice in the heat of the moment.
Very difficult to practice.
Right. Whether you are dealing with a toddler throwing a tantrum in the grocery store aisle, a spouse who is angry about the dishes, or extended family gossiping at a holiday dinner.
The full spectrum.
Yeah, retaliating with negativity is a guaranteed way to multiply your own pain. It is the inescapable law of emotional physics. Ugliness attracts ugliness. A tragedy cannot create a comedy. To build a happy life and a bright future, we must stubbornly, almost fiercely, choose peace, tolerance, and love. We have to commit to the pause.
It is a profoundly powerful framework for personal accountability.
It really is.
But it also raises an important question, something that builds on the principles we've discussed and pushes right into the messy reality of the human experience.
Oh, what's happening?
Well, the author insists unequivocally that we should never use our loved ones as a dumping ground for our negative emotions.
Right, the poisonous arrows.
And that our complaints are poisonous arrows. But human beings experience genuine distress. We experience valid anger and profound sadness.
Oh, we do. We're human.
Right. So if we are philosophically and emotionally forbidden from venting to our closest allies, the very people we trust the most in the world,
Oh, wow.
where do we process our valid pain? How do we navigate that incredibly fine line between healthy emotional sharing and toxic emotional dumping?
Man, that is the million-dollar question to chew on this week. It really challenges everything we assume about being a supportive partner or friend.
It really does.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. As you go about your week communicating with the people you care about most, try to notice the energy you're bringing to the conversation.
Notice the physics.
Exactly. Take that crucial pause. Are you planting apples? Or are you throwing thorns? We'll see you next time.